So we literally just started with each putting in $500.
I think we made $5,000 in a day one time. I'm averaging closer to $800 to $1,000 a day.
Ended up doing close to $20,000 a month.
One tip that I would have would be to always put the customers first in a consistent quality product. So if your customers are telling you this is a great product, this is exactly what they're looking for, you're getting 5-star reviews, that's what you're good at. If you have a customers consistently telling you like, it's not exactly what I was thinking, or maybe they didn't necessarily leave you a bad review, but they're like, it's not really what the picture said, that's something you don't want to sell, right? So you want to have consistent quality results all the time. So that's tip number one. Have a product that the consumers want. If the consumers want it, it's going to help you a lot on the sales end. Secondly is make sure you're pricing your products accordingly. I'm seeing a lot of my competitors are underpriced or overpriced. Really, you need to know your numbers on what your goals are, what your expenses are, what your overhead is. If you know all these things, you know exactly how to price it. I would not look at your competitors for pricing. I think that is the wrong way. Don't just price it less because you're trying to get the job. You have to price it on what you're worth and what the value is. If for some reason your prices are too high and you're not able to get bids, then I would say let's look at some products that are easier to sell at those price points. So maybe you're using the same product as everybody else and not able to get an extra amount of money for it. Tip number 3, I would say, is just no matter what you do in business, you always want to tell the truth. Always shoot someone straight, tell the truth whether they want to hear it or not, whether it's a customer, supplier, vendor. If you're having problems paying your bills, tell people the truth, or at least don't lie. Be forthright with everything that you do in business, and I believe that is how the construction industry needs to move forward. I think there's too many liars and cheaters, stealers. There's in the news all the time. There's contractors taking money from homeowners and going to Vegas and things like that. Avoid all those things. Avoid those things. Be a truth teller.
I would have to say just find what you love to do and really stick with it. So that was placed in your heart for a reason, and I don't think it's any shot of it's a coincidence. So you have that like a little fire for something, like look into it, pursue it, and go after it. And don't be afraid to grind for it, because it's not that easy. I know it's probably a very cliche thing, but it's not. It takes a lot of hustle, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. There's so many people that I've met, so many relationships that I've formed by even just starting Eating Cafe, just by making a business plan. I formed so many friendships that I'm going to continue on forming and having for the rest of my life. And so it just makes a big impact on what you see.
Number one, I would say for entrepreneurs, if you don't own a business, you've never started one, ask yourself why. Truly ask that. And be real about it. Is it financial freedom? Is it because you don't want to have a boss tell you what to do? You want to do what you want, when you want, whenever you want? Do you think it honestly just sounds cool? Some people really think it sounds cool, like I'm an entrepreneur and a boss. That's totally fine, but I would just say before you even do it, figure out exactly why you want to do it. For me, it was freedom. It's financial freedom. It's also freedom to do what I want, when I want. I'm sure you get some of the same perks and benefits, and you probably love that aspect. So for me, it was freedom. And I would just say be really, really honest with yourself, because it's not that glamorous. It is a lot of hard work. There is a lot of ups and downs. And I would say tip number 2 is you have to deal with stress very well. You have to be the person in entrepreneurship, if you're starting a business and a business owner, I would say somewhat competitive. I would say, resilient for sure, because you're gonna have a lot of hard days. And if you're kind of the person who doesn't take stress well, or you shut down or lash out, any of those extremes, you may not do as well. You might do fine, but it's very stressful, so you have to learn that. And number 3, I would say, it's like, what are the good things? I will say this, how about this, a good thing? If you get it going and you're somewhat successful, it's very cool to basically be like, hey, I'm taking off a week of work whenever you want. You can kind of short-term plan it. You don't have to ask for PTO. If you have employees, you have a team, you're gonna have to tell them. If you have clients, you're gonna have to give them a heads up, but you still have that freedom to do that. So that is actually a perk and pretty fun, but it is nonstop. I remember my first vacation, basically we got kicked out of our first office. It was during Thanksgiving. It was a crazy story for another time. So you're always gonna be on, understand that. It's a never-ending job, but if you love it and you're successful, you're gonna be very fulfilled.
Number 1, if you start it, finish it. Don't give up. There's gonna be times where you're gonna feel like this isn't something for you. There's gonna be times where this isn't easy. I've had times where I've woke up in the middle of the night, been super stressed. I'm not knowing if I really wanna do Hotbox, but that's the test of what it is that you gotta start a business with. That's definitely something that you just gotta stick with, keep going, and don't give up. Number 2 would be, there's gonna be peaks and valleys. That is just what this is. There's always gonna be highs, and then there's going to be lows. Try to be kind of even keel throughout the process. That's going to be the best for you, to not kind of, follow in the highs, but also don't go dropping in the lows. Just kind of try to keep in the middle and try to keep even keel. That's the best advice I could give you. Number 3 would be just go at it. Grind, hustle, put yourself out there, show yourself in front of the cameras, get yourself out there in social media, whatever way you can plug yourself in your product and what you believe in yourself and put that out there and let people know how much you believe not only in yourself, but your product, and it will sell, it will go, I can promise you that.
Tip number 1 is when you first start your business, be prepared to work a lot the first few years. Probably 50 to 70 hours a week, very little time off for this kind of business. It's pretty grueling, but as the years pass and you can afford to build a good solid team, then you can back off on that and work more like a 40-hour work week. My second tip would be to have another stream of income when you're starting your business, or a large savings that you can live off of and live frugally, because it'll be a few years before you make any money. Unless you have investors or some other way of getting this going, but if you're just a person going to the bank and taking out a micro loan, you're going to want to have some other way to support yourself, because it'll take some time to build an income. I would say my third tip would be get mentorship, take advantage of getting good advice. Go to your local SCORE chapter, speak to other business owners, get financial advice from an accountant, learn how to run QuickBooks or some other program. Stay on top of the money that you're spending, what's coming in, what's coming out, what your profit is. Set goals, long-term and short-term. See your progress. Keep track, check in every week, every month, and then make adjustments, whether it's adding new accounts, sourcing supplies from a different vendor at a better cost, finding ways to make your team more efficient. There's a lot of things you can do to keep profits growing, but if you don't track what you're doing and don't constantly look at it, then you won't know how to make the adjustments or when you need to make the adjustments. Asking for help is 100% the most important thing, like getting expert advice, seeking out information that's going to help you, and also following government regulations. Work with the health department or Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. That's who comes in and inspects us. They're great people to ask questions. What should we do about this? Whatever kind of question that might come up for running a business like this, they're a great place to start.
So 3 things that I would recommend for a new startup or entrepreneur is, number 1, being patient and knowing that you're not going to have success right from the start. You're going to have some tough times. You're going to have some sleepless nights. It might wear on your family a little bit, but you got to just stick with it and know that if you put in the hard work, you're selling a good product, you're utilizing good selling channels, that eventually good things will happen, but you have to be patient with it. Number 2 is making sure that you surround yourself with other people who love your brand, love what you're doing, are gonna be there for you and want to see your company grow. That is gonna be huge for you. And number 3, I would say, is as you continue to grow, is taking care of your employees, making sure that they know that you care for them, that you want the best for them. And that's by, if you're able to, offering different benefits for them. And I think if you do those 3 things, that would be a good starting point for any new entrepreneur.
First tip I would say is have some mentors, have some individuals that you can continually bounce ideas off. Other business owners that have created success and are winning every day. Because at the end of the day, like when I first started, it was very eye-opening, the shit I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting here, I'm like, all right, I got a 4-year Bachelor of Science degree and I've got an MBA. And I'm like, all right, I'm starting this business. I've just ran a business. I know how to do this. And then it's like, wait, I got to create this LLC. I've got to learn how to file my taxes. I've got to learn to, use QuickBooks. And I've got to learn to take pictures of all the stuff, like expenses and all that stuff. I didn't know. So like a piece of it is like, getting mentors, but also I would say like to find the right people that are behind you in your network. So finding a good accountant, finding a good legal person, those are individuals that are going to be behind you and helping you through this process. So, I wouldn't have known anything in terms of like how to do my taxes if it wasn't for my financial guy. Like that was huge. He's like, yeah, you need to do this, you need to do that, A, B, C, D, So that was one thing that I would definitely recommend. Number 2 is start small. and to continually grow it. So many people have these aspirations of saying like, hey, I'm gonna start off this huge investment. I've got these investors. If you have investors, great. I would stay away from it as much as you can, right? Because, you know, having someone outside of your world telling you what to do isn't the way you want, right? You know, as an entrepreneur, you're the individual, you're the face of the business, so you've got to make sure you've got it on tap. So that's another piece. But I would lastly say like patience. Like I'm not a patient guy, and I love like instant gratification. Most people do, and I love like just crushing stuff. And I've had to teach myself to really just, all right, this is the path. This is what we're gonna do, and we're just gonna grind it out every day, and it's just gonna keep growing little by little by little by little. And just I guess another piece is like taking care of your customers. You know, like if you're a customer-centric business, like making sure that you're putting them first. I don't want to get all cliche and say like, you know, like the whole whatever that Burger King thing was, like have it your way or whatever it was, but like at the end of the day, if they're not happy, you're not making money. So I love dealing with people that, I mean, this industry as a whole is awesome because people come in here bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and want to change their lives, right? And they want to get healthy, and it's super easy to do if they're happy, right? If we're not getting results and they're not happy, then they're not gonna keep paying you, you know. So we want to make sure that they're taken care of and they're getting results, and we're holding them accountable. And at the end of the day, if they're not getting there, then we're not gonna be open anymore. So, but I'd say that's any business, you know. Communication, organization, you know, continually talking to them, seeing how they're feeling. Feedback is key, you know, just those little things help.
Don't think too much before you start your business. Just dive in, because if you try to overthink it, obviously you should have your business plan and you should think about whether or not this is even viable. But if you start to overanalyze, thinking about whether this is going to be something that you really want to do, you're probably never going to jump into anything. I think had we known how difficult this would have been, I don't know that we would be here.
Yeah, on the flip side, though, once you reach a certain point, you're like, well, there's no choice but to make this a success now. We're in so far, like, gotta find a way to make this work. I would say the other piece would be to really do your research ahead of time about what it is that you're thinking of getting into. Trends come and go, things change, and the business itself, no matter how small, is tough to change quickly. And so really be sure that this is something. It's sort of the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If put in the work on the front end to figure out that there's really demand here, this is something that you really want to do, that even when everything that you could possibly imagine could go wrong, that you still want to wake up the next morning and like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna tackle whatever these problems are, because you'll have days like that. You'll have days that are great also. But it's really when you have some of those bad days and you have a few of them in the row that you need to make sure this is something that you are truly passionate about.
I think going along that same line, having a partner to start it with or to be in business with, man, that's saved us several times, because there have been times where I've wanted to give up and John hasn't, or John's wanted to give up and I haven't. And that combination has helped us also stick through some of the tougher times. But it's also, I mean, when you have those amazing moments where everything comes together and it's like the best day, it's so much more fun to have that with a partner.
Be hungry yet teachable, right? So you want to be able to like have a growth mindset. I want to grow in due time. I want to do the best things that I can to get a better quality product, make the processes more efficient and more lean. Because if you can do it more productively and more lean, then as far as time goes, it's costing less per unit of time. So you're making more in that sense. And then as far as always learning, I post on Instagram, for example. I rarely get clients from Instagram, but I like it because of the woodworking community, and I can connect with other makers and other cabinet makers across the country and pick things up that they're doing, whether it's guys who are strictly cabinet installers. They'll point out, hey, we're doing this for this cabinet install, this is why it makes sense. And then I can think, oh, maybe I should include that in the next build because I'm gonna have to install it. So if I think in the process ahead of time, that might benefit me. You know, I can see designs that others are coming up with and why they're doing it, how they're putting it together. So being teachable, wanting to learn, having the ability to take that initiative and do it. And then as far as launching a business, there's an amount of risk to it. You have to be willing to take that risk and step out in faith. For us, for my wife and I, our faith is really huge. Like, it's the core thing for our business. And when we went full time, it was a huge leap of faith. When we went into this shop, it was a leap of faith. We've got a leap of faith coming up with a big equipment purchase. And we're trusting that not only the Lord provides, but that the clients like the work that we do because of just how we've run the business so far.
Oh, I got more than 3.
Don't do this until your kids are grown up, because this is a child in and of itself. We call it the twins because it's 2 guys. It's like having quadruplets or even quintuplets or octuplets, because it's a lot. It wakes up in the night and cries the whole bit. It's a lot. So my biggest suggestion, every time I see our counterparts that have small children and not just
I don't know how they do
I don't know how you do it. I'm so tired. Maybe because we're older too.
I think one of the biggest ones is huge advantage for us is I have a menu that I wrote in 1991. None of that is here, but our restaurant ownership started in 91, 92. Is we did our homework, we knew our identity, and it changed over time. Like I said, it was always going to be a restaurant for us, restaurant/bar. I started homebrewing in 96, 97. As something, having spent years as a chef, I wanted to learn how to do something. I love beer. I can figure out how to make it, and got really good at it. And then the restaurant turned into, maybe there's more to this than we thought.
So do your homework in a nutshell.
Yeah, do your homework.
Well, and then the other, I think for me, the last part of it was, particularly the brewery industry, it is a fun industry to be in. It is exciting. There is potential to be relevant. You're not going to get rich doing this unless you've got a lot of really big investors, which, by the way,
take their money
back eventually. We know that there are a lot of breweries that have gone out of business, and I think the key is you can't sort of do this. You're either in or you're out. You have to be all in or you're not going to be successful. It's a lot of work, and I don't know how people can have another full-time job and do this as well. It's a lot. When we started this is how we make our money. This is how we take an income, and sometimes this week we're going to get a short paycheck because it was a rough weekend. That's how the cookie crumbles. But I think you have to be all in or you're going to really struggle to stay relevant and stay open.
I think being aware of your skill set. So if you decide tomorrow that you want to be a painter, don't try to get into $1 million neighborhood and completely wreck the house. Know your abilities. If you own your property or if your landlord's cool with it, practice at your place. Working, it's called, when you're painting with the brush, that's cutting in. If you can practice painting the wall where it intersects with the ceiling, that's how you can tell a painter's skill level, how straight that cut line is. Just starting on lower level projects, building up. One thing I've kept in mind with painting, I feel like reputation is everything. And so getting those first positive reviews online, when people search your company on Google, they see 5 stars. Even if you only have a handful of reviews, that's huge. So pride yourself in your work, know your skill level, and build from there.
Give yourself time. More time than you think you need.
Be patient.
Some patience.
Yeah. And
expect some real ups and downs. Yep. Expect to want to give up and just keep at it. Just do not.
And prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
And have some money, some rainy day money, because you're going to need it.
Yeah, I'd say just finding something like unique and fun and creative that like you enjoy doing. And yeah, just opening up the Etsy shop, I'd say that's the first step, and it's really easy to get started on it. And really, like I said, you only pay fees when someone purchases something, so it's low risk, I guess. Advice 2, I'd say, like don't get discouraged if you launch something and it doesn't sell right away. I think like there have been things that like I thought would do really well for me, and I've launched them and I just didn't get a lot of traction or a lot of people interested in them. but I think like you'll be surprised with some of the things that people do end up like becoming obsessed with. An example is like the pizza ranch sticker. I kind of launched it as a joke, and then it blew up and everyone's like obsessed with it, which is great. And then make sure that you have the time to invest in it and that you enjoy it, just because it is a lot of your own time that you're putting into it. So just make sure you enjoy what you're doing.
If I had to simplify it down to three things, three pieces of advice for a potential food truck owner. One would be have patience. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to grow a following and to understand which locations are profitable, which ones aren't, and what to focus on. Two, get ready for things to break. It's a commercial kitchen on wheels. All the equipment is not meant to be bouncing around on a food truck. So 100, 200 things that can break and ruin an event. So getting to places early and being ready with redundancies in place in case things break so you don't ruin a bride's day. And the third thing is, I know you love food, but you have to focus on the numbers. There are so many food truck owners that are almost offended by profitability, but you're gonna go out of business if you don't focus on the profits. And people, sometimes they won't. Sometimes customers complain about your price. That's probably not a problem with your price, it's probably a problem with your product. So if you need to increase that perceived value in order to hit the price that's gonna be profitable, do that. I think the average lifespan of a food truck in West Michigan is about 2 years. So yeah, those are the three things. Have patience, get ready for things to break, and focus on profits.
I have a lot, but I'm a big fan of trying to keep things simple. And so I think the first point would be to understand how a business works before you dive in. And that doesn't have to be a long, extended understanding process. You don't need to go to school for that. You just simply have to understand what revenue is, what expenses are, what cost of goods are, assets, liabilities, and some of the general buckets. What is an HR function? What is accounting responsible for? Now, in a small entrepreneurial setting, those buckets, as I talked about earlier, are kind of all you. As quirky as it is, there's a book called The E-Myth. It's a really good illustration. You take a couple of weeks and read that book, you'll come away with a really good understanding of how a business should operate in terms of delegation, hierarchy. I think that's just foundational to going into a business where you're putting your time and your money or someone else's money on the line. You should have that measure of confidence. Now, aside from that, you're not going to know what you're doing for the most part, and that's okay. And that point, it's fake it till you make it. A second piece I would say is take care of yourself. Because if you're not operating from a good place health-wise, you're gonna burn yourself out, you're gonna get sick, and you're gonna end up not enjoying your time and energy spent. So definitely a lot to say about that. But number one, prioritize sleep, eat whole food, and manage your stress. And that is gonna bring you leaps and bounds beyond where a lot of people in our country are at right now. It doesn't need to be a rat race. It doesn't need to be just reaching for the next thing. You can take your time, you can focus on quality work, but the work that you do should be fulfilling you in some way. That's the main advice that I have. If I were to give a third tip, I would also say, it's sort of on the heels of two, but take some time for fun. I think that the first year I counted it might have been 70 days, somewhere around that number is days straight that I worked for that first year, but I knew that I needed to take some time off. So I prioritized that. And then from that point on, I never had a stretch like that. Sometimes you do have to pay your dues a little bit, but I work with someone who operates another business, and I think that they went into the 200 or 300 days without taking a day off that first year, and that's just brutal and it's not necessary. Your business will survive if you take a day off. You don't need to go at it that hard, because if you're not balanced, you're not going to show up at your best for your team, for your customers. It's not worth it.
One of the tips I would highly suggest is you're gonna fail, and to learn from that. Failure is growth, I guess, in other words.
I would say just do as much research as possible on whatever it is. Like for us, it was moving. So just trying to figure out everything there is to a moving business you can, whether it's just, I literally watched so many YouTube videos just on like starting a business. I'm in school, so I went to my professors. I went to one of my marketing professors, and he helped me get some ideas. If you know anyone who's a business owner or is just, I don't know, anything to do with sales or anything like that, just reach out to them, have a conversation, just reach out to as many people as you can and just try to get as much advice as possible.
And lastly, I'd say go out of your comfort zone. For me, that's going door knocking. It's not my favorite, but you gotta do what you got to do, and it's part of the business. So I embrace it and helps you grow as a person and as a business. So
the first main thing is just be humble and actually try to help that client out. Don't be in it for the money. If you really enjoy what you like, then just do it to truly help them. 2 is always be kind to them. Great customer service. Even if you mess up or if there's something happening, just always be professional and nice to them. 3 would be actually personality is a big one. Being very, very good with people really helps you out. And then actually I have one more. My other top one is being on time and just communicating with the client. That's very, very important.
One would be learning everything yourself. So, when we started, marketing was a big one for us. We didn't know how to do it. We ran through 4 or 5 different companies who took thousands of dollars for us, saying they're going to do this, building a website. Just, it never worked out. So, spending time learning all the things that are important to your business, whether say you only like detailing cars, still learning how to do the website is probably the biggest thing for us. And then 2 is just investing in your people. You're only as good as the people that you have out here. Really lucky with 4 guys that are really good right now. So investing in your people, it might not be worth it in the beginning, but if you stay with them and train them and do it the right way, it'll work out. It's customer service, I don't know. I got lucky. I started selling cars. So I used to be a little 18-year-old who was didn't like talking to people, and that forced me to do it, and it just became something I like to do. But if you can create a bond with your customers, we're more than a detail shop. Customers call me personally with problems. That's what you want.
Do what you're good at, find something that you enjoy, and then the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. It is a lot of work to do anything you want to do in life, and so just always make sure that you're putting the hours in and the time in, because that is what separates you. For sure.
And I've actually had people come up to me and told me, hey man, I got a food truck because of you, and I'm like, that's awesome, man. Like, yeah. And it takes a lot, I really don't see myself coming up to somebody before, not now. Now I understand a lot of points, but before, hey man, I look up to you, man, being a grown man and telling another person, hey man, sometimes you do it anyway. You're like, man, I look up to that guy, you keep that to yourself, but yeah, I've had people come up to me and say, hey man, I started selling, got my food truck, and I love the way you hustle, man, and you're always here and there, and you're with your family doing things, and me and my wife, I got a kid and stuff, and and they've asked me any kind of advice. I'm like, yeah man, I said, when we started, man, we were gonna do a food truck in the beginning, but because people used to tell us the worst about owning a restaurant. Yeah, don't even get into that, man. Yeah, it's a whole nother thing. You talking about taxes, you talking about, they just told me the worst. So then we always kind of stayed behind and didn't want to really go to the other side. So we're like, till one day, man, the right people reached out to us, said, hey, you need any advice, you need any kind of paperwork, anything like that, come talk to me. I'll help you guys get to that other level you guys need to be. And they've tried our food, or other restaurant owners, they've tried our food, and they're like, and this was before we had the restaurant, they would be like, hey, you guys need a restaurant. Just keep pushing, man. Don't settle. I'm still not settling. I love where we're at. I love this, but I believe we deserve a lot more, and we're gonna get it. So, there's gonna be, no sleep pretty much. And that's the only way, man. That's the only way you accomplish anything you wanna do, man. It's just, there's gonna be a lot of sacrificing we did. I would work my 3rd shift job and 7 days a week, and in the morning when I get out, I go back. Before COVID, I would go and anything that was open, Gordon Foods, Walmart, Myers, and I would get cucumbers, I would buy limes, I would do the meat, anything like that to make it happen. I help my wife prep everything while I got a couple hours of sleep, and then we take that food out, go deliver it, and then I get ready to go to my regular job, 3rd shift. So we did it, man. We did it for 2 years, almost 3 years, before we actually got our restaurant. And just reach out to the right people, man. There's always other people out there, and don't believe when they say, yeah man, it's too stressful, don't do it, don't even, you're gonna lose family. And at the end, man, there's just certain people that are not willing to help you and go up there with you. So you just got to do it yourself, man.
I would just say to pick something that you love doing, because that's the biggest thing, is doing something that you love every day, and just keep doing it and having fun with it, regardless of what your thoughts are on, just keep going and say yes to everything, because that's experience, and it makes, you meet people through doing new things and stuff like that?
I would say my first one is, and I was talking with somebody else about this. So you got two options. One, you're either going to do it all by yourself, or you're going to have a business partner. So me and Emilio and I, we get along really well, which is nice. Although we do have arguments sometimes, I will say. But the beauty is we understand each other, and so you might not do exactly what you want to do every time, but you have somebody who has your back, so you don't have to do everything by yourself. Now, if you're a control freak out there and you want to start a business all by yourself, you will have like the mental clarity of not having to talk to anybody or take advice from anybody. You can just do what you want. But then you're also going to have to do everything yourself: the operations, the marketing, the bank account, all the boring stuff behind the scenes. The advice I would have is figure out what's important to you. You want to do your own ideas, or do you want to have it be a little easier on yourself, but you give up a little control?
One of the biggest tips I would give someone is when you're in the brink of giving up, that's when you should work a little harder, because there's like a few times in the past where I just remembered where I remember one time we did this job where we got fined by the state, and the state was like, yeah, you guys did this demo job and there was hazardous material there, so we're gonna have to give you a fine. And at the time, I mean, it was a big fine for me because it was just me, and I wasn't making that much money or whatever, and I was just like talking to my dad about this, and I was like, man, like, should I just give up? Should I just close shop? And he was like, nah, man, don't do that. Just give it another month. Like, just keep going. And a couple weeks later, I landed this like huge job that helped cover the fine. And I was like, man, if I would have given up 2 weeks ago, that would have been it. And if I would have given up then we wouldn't be here talking today about all this. So I guess my tip number 2 would be just when you're about to give up, just push a little harder and just give it another couple months and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think another one, you have to plan, but you have to have fun. And those sound like they're not related, but they are, because if you plan, then you can have fun. Because a lot of people, when I used to work at 2 Men in a Truck, you'd meet various types of business owners. Some are more on one side than the other. If you don't plan or have a goal, or if you're kind of just unsure of what the path is, then you're going to be too worried about it all the time to even have any fun. So for us, we like to sometimes, we'll get here and maybe we should have already left at like 8 o'clock, but maybe it's 8:15 and we're still telling jokes, because you need to, you want to come to your own business, and you want to not be like, man, what's going to happen today? So we do a lot of planning. We have a whiteboard over there with what we expect each month to be in sales. We plan out expenses for that, the old profit and loss statement and balance sheets and stuff like that. So we do a lot of planning to a degree, and then that allows us to, all right, it's 4:45. Maybe we don't need to spend 15 minutes being as professional as we possibly can be. Let's tell a couple jokes, because I have seen professionalism be the detriment of any sort of culture you're looking to have. That's just me. Amelia and I have talked a million times about, once we have a big corporate office or whatever you want to call it, making it not less structured, but kind of less structured, like where you're able to be yourself and you're not trying to be smarter than everybody else in the building and stuff like that. So if you plan, you can have fun, and that will set your culture. That's the fast way to say it.
That's a good one, yeah. Have fun with what you're doing, because if you don't love what you're doing, then you're just gonna give up.
I think the most important thing is just find a way, right? So could I have opened a restaurant right away? Absolutely not. That was not an avenue available to me. Like, some folks can find investors or, have family or friends who can help, and that's really awesome. But if you can't, and you feel like, well, I just don't know how to get to that big step, find the small step first, right? So for me, the small step was, I can save $150 and sell a couple dozen tacos at the farmer's market. Was I going to get from that to a brick and mortar in 4 months? No. But, you know, with a lot of hard work, like I was able to make that happen in a year, right? And I'm very fortunate that that time frame existed for me too, because it really is, it's like a snowball effect. Every small thing that you do, every baby step that you take really, really, really adds on. A second piece of advice would just be to like fortify yourself mentally and emotionally. However busy you think you're going to be, however hard you think it's going to be like 2 or 3 times that, you know? And the most challenging thing too is like, it's not like the hours that you're working. It's not, you know, it's not the planning. It's not all that. The most challenging thing is that once you own your own business, and especially in a restaurant, like there's always something you're dealing with. There's always a fire to put out. There's always something unexpected, some cost you weren't planning for, something that should work that doesn't, you know? So try to, from the get-go, like build your business with like emergency funds in mind. Try to figure out a way to be prepared for those unexpected things so that they don't threaten the stability of your business. And then a third piece of advice would be like ask for help. I could not have done any of this on my own, and I didn't do any of this on my own. Opening the space, like I had a few friends in here helping like for beer and pizza, basically. You know, like these walls are painted because there's a Pizza Hut across the street, essentially, you know. Ask for help, ask for input. Every perspective matters, even if you decide to do things the way you're thinking at first. Like you never know who's going to spark an idea that could radically change and improve and grow the idea that you already have. There are so many fundamental pieces of my business that would not be the same if I hadn't listened to my mom or a friend or a neighbor who walked by or a person at the farmer's market or one of my staff members. So like ask questions, ask for help, be open to advice.
I mean, I say go for it. Always follow your dream.
Yeah, it's the best thing that we have done is
100%.
The blood, sweat, and tears putting into this place has paid off time and time and time again, and it's been so worth it.
It can be scary, but I would say, first come up with a budget and see if that is doable, and then make a plan of how you're going to execute, how you're going to bring your clients over and how you're going to pay your bills. And then also, I think third is just dividing up responsibility and just trying to stay on track with that and prioritizing, certain things over others.
I mean, for anyone that's looking to start a business in general, I think they should know their market for sure, know where they stand in the market. We've kind of branded ourselves, so a lot of people know what we have to offer, and I feel like that's been really helpful. Knowing what you're going to sell is huge. So like you don't want to pick a product or something you're not passionate about. So if you're interested in plants, obviously the greenhouse thing is great. We have a lot of people that love plants that don't want to grow the plants, but they just want to be able to source the plants. So that's a whole nother option. And then I would say knowing how much labor is involved is pretty big too. I didn't realize it growing up how much work it actually was until I got into it myself. It's very tedious growing plants. You have to be on top of everything, and there can be a lot of disasters involved. So I think really knowing what you're getting into.
Hard work is probably the number one trait. It's one thing that can set you apart from anybody else. Sometimes, our circumstances of where we are at are out of our control. So control what you can control, and controlling your effort and the hard work. Number two, it's not cliche. Starting a business up is difficult. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's peaks and valleys from an emotion perspective, from a workload perspective, but just staying focused and like nose to the grindstone and blocking out the outside distractions, that other people may be putting on. Why are you doing this? That type of thing, putting that shadow of doubt. And then third advice to give to an entrepreneur, to not give up. There's always going to be hurdles, and even in life, it's never easy. And so being in business is not easy. So you have to live off the little wins. So if you're starting up a company and you get one lead or one prospect or one sale, build off that. Now make it 2. Now make it 3. You're not going to get to your grand vision or to your grand goals without taking little steps along the way and planning those steps, being detailed, trying to follow that plan as best as you can, and knowing that your plan can mold and change. And so if things do change, the market changes or products change or supply chain issues, things are out of your control, being ready and able to adapt for those situations.
I would say I would highly recommend that you identify and know your market. Every entrepreneur, no matter what the idea is, thinks it's the best idea around. And it might be, but it might not be the best idea for the area that you're in. It might be a great idea in a different market. So do your research, right? Know your market. Definitely do a deep dive into that. The next is know your barriers of entry. Not all of them are financial. Everyone assumes that, you need a ton of money to open up a business. Sometimes you don't need that much money, but there are other barriers of entry. So identify what those are. It might be equipment as opposed to financing. It might be employees as opposed to equipment or financing. But if you don't have those lined up and you don't know what those barriers are for you to start, then you're not going to be able to start. The third thing is talk to a mentor at least once a week, and they don't even need to know that they are your mentor. Pick their brain. Someone who's smarter than you, someone who's dumber than you. You can learn from both. Know exactly kind of what you're looking for in the area, in your market, in your demographic. There are people out there, if you want to start a business, who will invest into you if you have no money, as long as you're willing to work. Right? Sweat equity, work ethic, like Mike was saying. That's one of the biggest barriers of entry. If you want to open a business, but you can't work, you don't know the work ethic or getting up in the morning and realizing that it's, no matter what it is, it's customer service number one, then you need to prioritize and readjust.
Research what you want to do, look at your competition, get yourself ready, but don't be afraid to just pull the trigger and do it. Don't wait till everything is right, because it'll never be right. Just do it and clean up the mess as you go, or you'll never get started. So many people say, if I only would have this, if I only would have that. Well, they wanted to, but they were just waiting for the right this or that. It's never going to be right. Just step out and do what you want to do.
My number one tip, don't go cheap with your equipment. My second advice is what I did is I've always ran my company as if I already had a team. When it was just me, I've always said we, when I speak. If somebody messaged us on Facebook, I've always said, how can we help you? Or we'll send a technician out, later today. But it was just me. My last bit of advice is don't be in it. Yes, the money is, that's why we're in it. We want to make money, but that shouldn't be the biggest factor in starting a business. You need to do something that you love and have integrity in what you do. Just keep your name good, because one small thing can ruin you. You can do a million things right, and then you do one thing wrong, and it's just, your business can go down the drain.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared to try something. There are definitely ways to try and see if something is going to work without a huge investment. Because I think that's what scares a lot of entrepreneurs, is not knowing how it's going to work and if people are going to catch on to it. And a lot of times there might be a huge upfront cost and investment into that. But I think there are ways to slowly kind of dip your toes in the water and try something out without putting a huge investment into something. And maybe that's not for every business, but I think if you really want it and you have a heart for it and you truly believe there's a market for it and that people want that, you shouldn't let anything stop you. So I think that's the number one thing, because also again, if you don't have that huge investment in it, you have nothing to lose. You're meeting new people and you're getting the word out there, and you've also learned a ton from the day that you decided I'm going to run my own business till maybe later down the road you say, it's not for me. That's okay, because all that in between has led you to so many different opportunities and experiences and has made you grow as a person. So it's super important. I shouldn't say don't be scared. It's okay to be scared, but I would say push through that fear and make it a priority, because you'll regret it if you don't. Be reliable. Make sure that if you really want to do this, make sure that you are going to give it your all, give it your 100%, because if you don't, that's a crack for not succeeding how you thought in your mind. So being reliable and being present and being communicative, and you genuinely need to want to get to know your clients, like get to know who you're dealing with, and make sure who you're going to deal with and involved in your business. Make sure those people fit your business. Make sure you fit with what they're looking for. It's a two-way street between clients and business owners, and making sure that it's a cohesive, positive fit for everybody.
It's all about the hustle that you have. You have to have the dedication. You have to be disciplined too, because any type of job where you're your own boss, you have to have that discipline to wake up in the morning, take a shower, strap on them boots, and get out there and work.
It doesn't just stop at, okay, I purchased the equipment, I got my LLC, now let's wait for the millions to start landing in our lap. It don't work like that. A lot of people don't know this, but we're out of the house at 7, and last night I didn't get in my door till 10:15. After bins, we go do washing, fleet washing. I'm constantly working so that way the cash flow doesn't stop coming in so our business can survive. We're a small company, you know, we're compared to a big company that's recognized like McDonald's. If I was in the food chain industry, I'd have to work really hard at it because I got McDonald's 2 blocks away from me, you know. It doesn't stop there. So with that being said, you know, don't stop, don't give up, be persistent, and just keep on going. A lot of businesses fail. We're 2.5 years old. A year into it, I knew we weren't gonna fail. I was already convinced, and that was part of the reason why we didn't purchase a truck, because I didn't want to spend the extra $100,000 on a truck until we knew we were gonna be good. But 8 months into it, I was like, man, I think we're gonna be good.
When people ask me for tips about starting their own window cleaning, power washing company, is don't quit your day job. I started off moonlighting, doing stuff on the weekends. So by the time I started my own company, I had a decent client list already. Number 2 would be, don't just go out from YouTube, get out there to a convention, work with another power washing company or some professional to really learn the trade. 3 is invest in the best equipment that you can get. I mean, sometimes you gotta buy what you can afford, and then sometimes you can buy the best with the warranties on it. So, you know, you definitely have to make a decision, but in the long run, it's gonna be better to buy the better equipment.
Just stay calm, just work the process, and just make sure your customers are happy, and just be happy with your work. You just love what you do. You can't just go into something that you don't love to do. If you're going into something you don't love to do and you're starting a business and you invest a lot of money into it and you don't even like to do it, it's not really worth your time. So I would just say the biggest thing, you really want to love what you do.
One for sure, I would say surround yourself with good people as best you can. Of course, everybody I think tries to do that, but if you find good people or a good person, do what you have to hold on to that person. You know, you've heard it before where like you lose that person, you have to hire somebody new and train them and whatever, and that is very costly. So that would be one thing for sure. I would also tell you to, I think especially when you're an owner of a business, it's easy to kind of become like a workaholic, you know, I struggled myself for many years with just kind of micromanaging and just like being too much of a perfectionist, and I realized that I was driving everybody nuts, and I just needed to step back. You know, you got to realize people are trying their best, and so you know, I'm a kind of type A personality, so I kind of had to step back. And it took me a while, but I think I've done a pretty good job with that. You know, and I guess the last thing would be, yeah, like once you have staff in place that you like, to just trust them. You know, kind of I like to say, you know, you kind of need to allow people to fail once in a while or make a mistake, and then you say, hey, I get why you did that, but this is how I'd rather you do it next time, and just kind of let them kind of throw them in the pool and let them swim, you know, instead of helicoptering over and the whole time, if you know what I mean.
Leverage your network, absolutely. Try to get to know people that you would want to work with one day. I think that's been one of the biggest helps for us, is definitely like who we know, which is a very common answer. It's not what you know, it's who you know, but it really does help. And people that you may not expect to help do end up being super helpful, I would say. So just keep your mind open.
Never close your mind down on one idea. Really keep it open and always be willing to expand and grow your idea. Things are gonna pop up. Take them for what they are, and it's probably gonna benefit you. And you really won't limit your opportunity by just constantly keeping your mind open. Like, always be willing to learn and listen. I've just been reaching out to a lot of people. I've just nonstop reached out to a lot of people. Like, we're not from Grand Rapids. We don't have family that lives in Michigan. It's just her and I. So So it's been a lot of just reaching out, and I've just nonstop emailed, called people, and from there it's just like you grow good relationships and whatnot, and it's kind of benefited us now, and we are able to book up a lot faster by just constantly reaching out and being out there.
And not being hesitant.
I am more of an introvert when it comes to that. I don't really like putting myself out there. So it is something that is uncomfortable for me, but it's kind of like, it's the name of the game. It's what I got into. So I will put myself out there at this point and make mistakes, but I'm willing to do that for the business.
I would say really sit down. Number one, do your homework. Do your homework on the people that are already doing what you're doing. Somebody that's been in business for a long time, they know what they're doing. Find out what they're charging, find out how they're structured, how they're doing things. If you're kind of going into an avenue that nobody's really doing, so you can still do that research. Find out your cost, but really pay attention to your cost and what it's gonna cost to operate every single month. Beyond that, have a goal set inside. It's gonna seem really unachievable at first, it really is, but think of it as a ladder. I mean, if you just gotta climb one step at a time. You're never gonna make it to the top just overnight. It's just not gonna happen. It's a lot of nights of grinding, working till 9, 10 o'clock at night, but you have to put in that grind to really appreciate it in the end. I guess the other thing, and I would say with businesses, is just be careful with debt in the beginning. It's really easy to go get a brand new truck that you think you need for the business, to go buy that brand new piece of equipment. That's all well and good, but when that payment comes every month, and if you are a little slow, that money's got to come from somewhere. So just kind of, I would say, try to build your equipment and your vehicles and your stuff as you grow. It's okay to start with a used truck. It's okay to start with used equipment. Nobody's gonna look down on you, and most people in this kind of industry, in any trades, I would say, they're gonna respect that you're out there trying and you're out there hustling and you're working every day. That's what they wanna see. The flashy trucks, the flashy equipment, it's nice, but in the end, it's not really gonna do a lot for you.
Don't worry too much about what everybody else is doing. I would focus a lot on what you do, the experience that you provide for your customers, and just work to make that the best or easiest experience for them. I would also say find a problem and find the solution. If you had a bad experience with XYZ in this scenario, figure out the solution before having the problem take over. Honestly, it's just provide the experience that you would want. I mean, obviously you're starting a business to solve a problem or to create a service or a solution for customers or for clients, but you want to do it in a way that keeps them coming back. Retaining customers is a lot easier and a lot less expensive than gaining new customers. So make sure that the customers that you have are being appreciated and you're doing everything you can for them to be able to want to continue doing business with you, because referrals and recommendations from your existing customers is the easiest and the best form of advertisement that you can possibly get as a business owner.
So I would say grind it out as long as possible with keeping the steady income to help finance the business, I guess, depending on what you're doing. Second piece of advice would be utilize social media. It's huge right now. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those are free. The ads on them you can run, so I guess we do pay for ads every once in a while if we have a crazy vehicle in here and we want more people to see it, but we're talking like $20, $30. We're not talking $200, $300. I would say utilize those as much as possible, because almost every single person has either Facebook or Instagram, and you can link them. So whenever you post to Instagram, it's posting to Facebook. I didn't know that for the longest time, so I'd have to post to both, which was terrible, but now I have them linked. Third would be find a mentor. Find somebody that's done it and is great at whatever you're doing, trade-wise or service-wise or whatever you're doing, and learn from them. You're never gonna stop learning. It's just how it goes. I would say I'm better today than I was last week, just because I've learned more. Experience is everything. Do it as much as humanly possible. I mean, from a paint correction, wet sanding, ceramic coating applications, all those type of things, I was doing after hours for a long time before I said, yeah, let me do it to your vehicle, you know what I mean? So perfect your craft or your service or whatever you're doing and have great customer service, and you're gonna be okay.
You have to just go for it at some point, and plan for it, but you have to go for it and just whatever happens, happens attitude. It's because you're either going to go for it and do well and stay in business for a while, or you're going to go for it and you fail, and then just you're back at square one, job and regular life. So you just have to have that courage to go for it. Thing is, there's a lot of learning once you do go for it, because we've been learning this whole time new stuff, and when you fail, it's just you learn.
And I think that just not giving up just because the money's running low or this or that, those are things that you can overcome. And I think that you just, it's just like, to me, it's like, just because your money's running low, don't give up, because that's the time, like, you can make it still. That's my advice. Just stay with the course, stick the course.
We spend a lot of time on the function, how things work in the kitchen, flow, the engineering of that, and how to store stuff too. And that's as important as just making good food, because you make good food and it sits around for a while, well, it's not going to be good, anymore. So just that is very important, is just the function of the kitchen and the front part, the counter, and that's a lot of stuff that we didn't go to school for. We started it out and it was slow, so we sat back and figured out how to make it go faster and quicker and more efficient. It took time to do that, but once you figure it out, that's when you can be really successful in one store and then translate that to another store.
Number one, first and foremost, and this could be all three of them, be your authentic self. People crave authenticity. If you come into my office, you can tell very quickly that I'm probably not like other chiropractors, other doctors that you've been around. I adjust barefoot for the simple fact is I feel more grounded when I'm adjusting. So first thing I do is kick my shoes off. I used to look like the Express model, the mannequin. The tight shirt, the dress slacks, the shoes, the tie clips. You can't move in it. It's very restrictive, and the tie's getting in the way. So eventually the tie went away. And then the shirt was too tight. Then that went to a polo. I thought the polo looked stupid. Then I went to a shirt. My shoes slide a little bit on the floor. I didn't feel grounded. I kicked the shoe, now I just wear this. It's the exact opposite of what you're told to do, but this is my authentic self. I can adjust and deliver the best adjustment wearing clothes that I can move in. So that's what I'm gonna do, because again, you're coming to me for the best adjustment you've ever had. I need to be able to deliver that. Authenticity. I don't do anything in this office that I don't like about another business, where you're told constantly, constant contact. You got to be emailing once or twice a week. You got to always just be in the forefront of your patients' minds or your customers' minds. That bugs the shit out of me. Things that I love, things that I've bought. If I get too many emails from them, I'll unsubscribe and kind of don't really want to do business with them anymore, just because they're filling up my inbox. It just kind of annoys me. So my rule is, if it annoys me about another business, I absolutely do not do it in mine. I email my patients maybe twice a year. It's for 2 big events that we do, or if we lost power or I'm sick and I can't come in and I gotta let everybody know not to drive in. It's the only time they get an email from me. But those are all things that are authentic to me, and people crave authenticity. If you are not authentic, if you are trying to run your business because of this guru told you this mastermind class taught you this, it's gotta be done like this, but that doesn't feel right in your core, your clientele is absolutely going to notice that. They are going to pick up on that, and there's going to be this weird thing in between you and them. They might not be able to pinpoint it, but what it is at the end of the day, it's they know you're not being authentic. You got to be authentic. Second one, done is better than perfect. Procrastination is a huge thing. The worst form of procrastination is you got the motivation to do the thing, you just don't know how to do it 100%. And for you, it's got to be 100% perfect before it's going to get out there and be seen. Done is better than perfect. You will never accomplish anything if you're always waiting for it to be absolutely perfect. So yeah, maybe the camera's not the best. Maybe you got to film it on your phone. Maybe you don't have a microphone right now. Maybe it's not. Just do the thing. You can always improve on it, because if you wait until it gets absolutely perfect, by the time you got all the things and all the resources, things move so quickly. Things are changing so often that this might not even be viable in a month from now, and then you're back to exactly where you started. Grow along with whatever it is that you're trying to do. Just do the thing. Do the thing, get it done, get it out there, then make tweaks, make changes, make things like that.
What I learned early on is to network. That's been a big, massive influence on my business. Like I said, I started the business on Facebook, and it just grew from there. You do a great job. Once I got on Google, it really catapulted me. Once I got the reviews, I just hit over 100 5-star reviews on Google, and that has just really catapulted me. Get in your network groups on Facebook, learn other businesses, go to their networking group functions, and really just go after that. And I mean, you want your name to be the first one to come up whenever people ask for your specific type of business that you offer. And then the last one is probably just don't be afraid to invest. I mean, I was very scared early on to, put in that $2,500 for that machine, but that machine literally made my business catapult 10 times. It got me to where I want to be per hour. It keeps me safe on the ground, and it pays for itself very quickly. So whatever you're in, just don't be afraid to invest and look the part.
Stick with it. Even when you think it's not going to work and you're almost broke. I guess that's the biggest one for me is there's many times of starting a business, especially farming, of doubt. Was this the right move? Is this going to work? Am I going to go broke? But I have an asset backed up investment here. So I always knew it would be a little bit safer than say starting a restaurant or something to where you can really just go all the way in the hole, because worst come to worst, if it wouldn't have worked, I had the land in an appreciating area.
One would be take care of yourself first. I think that diet and being healthy is like rocket fuel for being an entrepreneur. I definitely think a lot of people entrepreneuring out there might be so focused on entrepreneur, you might forget about the basics in life. So make sure that you're taking care of your head, taking care of your body and your spirit. I think that that's a super crucial part of your being, and kind of makes you a attractive and contagious person to be around. And those are the people that are the ones that end up being successful in entrepreneurship. Number two would be just having the balls to go and do it. I remember when I quit and my old boss was super cool and still one of my best friends. When I quit working with him, it was, I was hard to leave with him, but I knew, oh my gosh, now I don't, making money is on me. So if my phone doesn't ring, I'm not gonna be making any money tomorrow, or yada, yada. So it is stressful. Also, dealing with showers and stuff, you have possible leaks and flooding of people's homes. So there is stress, but just learning how to manage that is key. And obviously if you're doing good work, you shouldn't have much stress at all. So lastly, I would say communication is everything. Being punctual is everything. Showing up on time is I swear 40% of it. If you can just stick to a schedule and show up on time. Text them the night before, say, hey, I'm gonna be there at 9:30. I'm probably gonna work till 4:30. This is what I'm gonna do. They just freaking love that. And it's just a text message at night before 6 p.m. or whatever. So that's what I get my biggest compliments on, is I get back to people right away. And obviously just doing good work is by far the biggest thing.
Be passionate. If you have something that you can get behind and feel strongly about, be passionate about it. People recognize and get into that with you when they see that you're passionate about something. That's one thing that I would say.
Work hard. I mean, just put your all in it, so that if you're doing something, just do it as best of your ability, and you're better off. It'll pay off.
And always be kind. Sometimes people come in and they're not really happy. They can be grumpy. You have to choose to treat them well and be kind no matter what. I don't think that has to do with not just business, but in general in life. If you show that you are kind and caring about people, that goes a long way.
Number one is to quit your job. Yeah, I would have never expected it. I'm guilty, I got fired, or else I would have never started this full time, but I was doing it part time for 5 years after work. And then so I just decided to go with it. And so that'd be, the other part of that, just do it. Just do it. Don't be afraid to fail. The more times you fail, the better you're going to become. If it's something that's in your head, it's always going to be there. Just put it on paper for one, and then make it a reality. And then that just go right into the next tip is goal setting. My goals, funny enough, I put them on my resume for job applications. I thought that was something that was big, that would stand out. And there also was something I never thought I would achieve, but it's because they were on paper and they were in reality, and it was something I was striving for. I accomplished every single one of my goals, which was to become a master mechanic, to buy a house, and to own my own business. And lo and behold, I guess a third good little tip is just to, the one nobody wants to hear is to be patient. You can't do everything overnight. As much as I try, you can't.
Definitely be more organized than I am. I don't feel like I really knew what I was doing going into it, and
My husband's more organized than me, but I'm the one who runs the whole thing. So I would say keep track of your costs, because to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what we are actually profiting. Definitely get a calendar with your events. That's been my hardest thing. Like this year has been the easiest because I've actually kept track of everything. I would say things like this, we do, for our big events, we do a thing on Square called KDS. And so it's like one iPad, and then behind the grill is another iPad where you know exactly the orders that's coming in. And if it's like a food vendor, definitely join Vendors United. That's been our saving grace.
One is like strive to actually create value. Like a lot of people go out with the mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna make a bunch of money, or I'm gonna do this thing, and it might not even be aligned to what people want. But if as an entrepreneur you go out and you say like, I'm gonna create value along these dimensions, you really see it like resound in others, and you get a lot of like, it makes the work feel less like work because you're out there like doing something that's legitimate, not just by however you concocted it or designed the plan, but like how it's received and actually utilized. So even if you're not creating monetary value on that one day that you spent 4 hours packing up a bunch of charge scoots, putting them on your trailer, getting somewhere, like if everything seems like down, you can create value for like one person, or just value creation. That's straight out of like my Hope College education. So 2, you need a team. Like I've been doing this mostly like by myself. I've got a team in my network of sorts. Like I've created like this is a very niche thing that I do, and like I know a lot of people in the industry, so like they help me out, but like predominantly it's been like me solo. That was a lot better when I was downtown, had my spot. But just like over the years, if certain people didn't make their way to me, like if my mechanic didn't, I would have been so down in the gutter in my head. So it's really like find yourself a good team. 1 or 2 people is better than like a bunch of people. If you have a couple of A players instead of like a and a C, because that C is gonna bring everyone else down. So 2, yeah, probably like a good team. And 3, I mean, you decide when you're done. I haven't given up this far. I've been saying like, oh, like the 5-year metric, like most businesses take 5 years to become profitable. But like there's a lot of things I can do in this world, and I don't know if I want like it to be scooters anymore. So I'm in like this process right now of deciding if I'm sick of dealing with municipal crap, with insurance stuff, with all like, I've learned so much. Decide at a certain point like what you want to be doing. It's always good to get out there and like try new things. But like right now I'm kind of burnt out. Like it's been a long summer, and this is like the several consecutive summer where it's kind of felt like what's going on. I'm 23, there's a lot of stuff to do in the world. I've been a scooter guy for a long time, so I'm kind of sick of all the motions. But like ultimately I decide that. I guess you gotta know like how long to stick in it and how long to like let something go.